Welcome to banddirector.com. We are here in the Marriott at the Renaissance Center in Detroit, Michigan, on the eve of a wonderful performance that's going to take place with the Detroit Jazz Festival. We were invited and feel honored to be here with Kirk Whalum. Attended one of his rehearsals, and I'm joined here with Kirk Whalum, Brian Rowland, band director here in Michigan, and with the American School Band Directors Association, and John Phillip, a band director in Warren, Michigan as well. And we have a few minutes here to talk to Kirk about music education, Stack School of Music, the performance tomorrow night, and a new release of his album featuring the music of
Donny Hathaway. It's called Everything is Everything, which is a very wide open topic there. Donny Hathaway, the great soul singer who pretty much impacted every single soul singer, as well as many, many jazz musicians, and just a lot of folks. You know, we found out when we did this record just how many people identified with Donny's music and with his message. You know, he was one of those folks that was making music during an era when message music was the thing. There was the Vietnam War, there was the Civil Rights Movement, there was all these, just was pregnant with, you know, activism and a lot of deep thought, you know, and so it made its way into the stream of soul music. And Donny Hathaway was one of the main purveyors of music with a message, you know.
Last year, we were very lucky and honored to do a live webcast at a jazz club here in Detroit, and had a chance to interview and talk to Kirk, and I was surprised, to be honest, of your dedication to music education, and we had a few moments to talk about that, and so I know Brian has a question here, and
sure.
And I think it's just important to know and to hear from you and expand on that, so these young educators that will watch this interview can make that connection and understand a little bit of where you've come and where you're looking to go, and how that education is a part of who you are and your music.
Sure, absolutely.
With the role of standardized testing and things of that nature, it seems like the arts are slowly slipping from schools. What do you see the role of arts in particular and music in particular in schools now?
Right. Well, we can only hope that people will make that connection, that educators will get it. I think more so than educators, it's more administrators and folks at the school board level and you know, city hall and that ilk, that they will be able to make this connection. That is absolutely, it's easy for most of us to see, but it's really not as easy for them when they look at, again, these test scores. And it's like in general, it's a good thing that there's a lot of attention being paid to comparing the level of education in this country to that in Europe and in Japan and in China. And so that's a good thing. You know, folks are now trying to see they're being proactive. What can we do to change this to where our scores and our level of comprehension and aptitude goes up and to match the world. So that's a good thing. But what it is, just like with anything else, some of the main things are not so obvious. Some of the main things about maturing, you know, it's almost like you can write a manual about how to be a man, right? And you can read the manual and you can get there and you can say, I know nothing. Because at the end of the day, so much of it is experiential, and it's things that are just not, they're sort of almost cachet, they're hidden from sight. Same way music is such a valid and important part of a well-rounded and holistic approach to a child learning how to learn. Okay, now for me that's huge because, and as a musician, or as we call us, band geeks, you know, when we learn, when we shed, we have a certain propensity or capacity to take something, work on it, perfect it, and then either make it harder and then learn that thing, or go on to something else. But the idea is that you work on that thing and you're able to focus on that thing and ad infinitum. In fact, when I lived in France, first thing I found out was there's no real direct translation for the word to practice. You know, they say pratiquer, that word means like to practice law or medicine. But to practice music, actually they use the word répétition, which means repetition. So actually it's about being able to focus, devote your attention to one something, to do the repetition, repeat that thing, then move on to the next thing. It's called learning how to learn. Well, that's something that is unique to the music experience or the art experience. And it's something that needs to be explained many times to people who are making the decisions about how we're going to address these problems. Guess what? Music is a microcosm that's very powerful that they need. They need us to get kids. It's almost like you have to trick them. You have to get them into something that they love, that they enjoy doing, and they want to be good at it. So, okay, in order for you to be good like that person there, you've got to work on this thing here, and then you get to that, and you work on that, and then you get to this, and you look around, and you're up here. Well, that's not something that you can get the average kid to do unless they're really, really into it. And what's more fun and on so many levels than music? I mean, I'm sorry, there is nothing else. And of course, you know, all the statistics prove that music has a broad range impact on the way kids learn and the way they think. So again, I'm not an educator in that sense, but I will say that I have identified that music is exponentially more powerful in producing better students, producing better citizens, well-rounded individuals than anything else.
You know, I think that's important that we get that message to some administrators.
Right.
Some of them understand that, others do not.
Right.
And it's a constant challenge to combat that.
Right.
And we face that every day in the schools.
Right.
And John, Brian's been teaching for a number of years. You're relatively coming into the field. Seventh year. And you have a middle school, or?
I do a middle school, and I also do a marching band at the high school level.
Okay.
But primarily at the middle school level.
Okay. And it's important to get the young kids started with the jazz early.
Yeah.
How do you motivate these young kids?
Right. Yeah. I mean, first of all, you're a saint, man. I want to say that. You know, I do remember Mr. Henning, Daryl Henning. God bless you, man. I don't think he's still alive, but poor guy. I know he had to have some libation or something in the drawer of that office, because I remember him. He would leave the bandstand, you know. He'd sit there and he'd say, "Yeah, sad but true," and he'd just take a little break and go in there. "I'll be back," and he'd go in the room there, open that drawer. We're like, "Well, I guess there's peanut butter and crackers in there or something," but I don't know. I think the poor guy had to just go, because in middle school, golly, man, it's, but at the same time, I'm finding at Stax that it's also a wonderful sort of magical era, a time in a kid's life where they're full of discovery and they're not, so jaded yet. They're not too concerned about being cool. They're just starting to kind of have that, the peer pressure and I gotta be cool, so I'm sorry. That looks a little bit too much like, academia, So, but I do believe that we undershoot sometimes, and a lot of times the kids are much more sensitive to, as we deal with that Stax, real soul music, and real blues, identifying those things and exposing those things to the kids. I think we went through a period where if you were going to be a musician, you categorically had to study classical music. Now again, so did I, and thank God I did, and I think that should be a part of every curriculum, classical training and the pedagogy and the rudiments and the blah, blah, blah. But I think that we miss something when we don't teach kids how to communicate. In other words, we need to train them that what they're doing is not just making music, they're communicating. It's a language. You're teaching them a language. I speak French, and I'm pretty good at Spanish now. I know enough Japanese to get in trouble. But for me, it is the same thing. It's learning the the grammar and the vocabulary, as it were, of this language called music. But you're not just learning for the sake of it. At the end of that, you should have the capacity to at least put your soul out there in hopes that you can connect with somebody else's soul. Okay? We all have one. And so that's the thing that kids will identify with that. But you have to put it out there. You have to kind of, give them credit for being able to think, above and beyond like notes and, just the rudiments to say, listen, this is a language, and what you're communicating is something very personal, something that means something to you. And so in that sense, you got to be prepared to be rejected. You got to be prepared that people don't agree with what it is that you're communicating, and they'll pass on. But guess what? There's going to be somebody out there that you're going to reach. And the question on the floor is, are you qualitatively committed to that thing that you're communicating? To me, that's the thing. People say, well, you play soulful. How do you do that? Teach me how to play soulful. I'm like, I don't think you can teach that. I think you can play soulful. I think that it's about people here and they sense the commitment, the conviction that you have about this thing. What are you convicted about? What do talking to the kids about what do you believe in? Describe this scenario. Do you think that's wrong? Is that unfair? Is it, start them to think along those lines so that when they are playing their instrument and singing, they're communicating something that they feel strongly about. Again, it doesn't always have to be something deep and heavy, but it could be just romance or just fun things, but it's something that you're communicating that connects with people, and that to me is what music is all about. So if we miss that, we can forget that whole train that leads from Negro spirituals to blues, to R&B, gospel, blah, 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 all, rock and roll, that whole jazz, that whole, continuum. At the root of that, it is about communicating something profound to somebody and connecting with them. And then there's a big pause. What do you say?